Back to Sports World. Peter, New Year's Day up here was something else. In fact, New Year's night was something else indeed. How was it down there?
Well, it was very quiet for us. You know what hard-working lads we are down here in Melbourne, Brode, so we all went to bed pretty early. I think the floor crew were just telling me before that they were in bed around about 10:30. That was New Year's morning, not New Year's Eve. So, but for me it was very quiet, mate. What about up in Sydney?
Well, you're a clean living sort of a bloke. I must admit, I'm still sort of that young, immature type that likes to burn the candles at both ends. But it was a bit strange on New Year's Day when we got a lot of phone calls saying that there were flying telegraph poles at Sydney's Wentworth Park. Somewhat distressed, we sent Strath Gordon to investigate. He scotched the rumours, but he's been talking a little strangely ever since.
For the Scots and their Australian descendants, New Year's Day means pipe music. Highland dancing, and of course the Highland heptathlon. The Scots have brought us some strange things, from the haggis to the Highland fling, but their contribution to the world of whisky will never be repaid, nor their contribution to sport. This monster shot is the Highland parent of the modern Olympic shot. The wooden-handled hammer, again, is the ancestor of the Olympic hammer throw. Only the caber has failed to evolve into a modern sport. It remains a truly Highland occupation. But in competition on New Year's Day, the flavour is definitely international.
Yeah, it's great fun. It's very athletic and very challenging. Get to meet a lot of interesting people all around the world. It's a good sport.
It's different. It's very different. It's a lot of fun to do it. Yeah.
You claim any Scottish background yourself?
No, I'm Irish.
The 8 competitors contesting these Highland sports come from all parts and all backgrounds. Dan Markovic is a Yugoslav-born Canadian policeman. It's a fair mixture to squeeze into a kilt, but it does raise the question, how did Dan end up with a Campbell tartan wrapped around him?
Well, a friend of mine was selling it for $25, so it was the cheapest they could get, so I bought it.
There's a canny Scot lurking in there somewhere for sure, but it's hard to imagine how a Yugoslav Canadian came to take up these strange Scots sports. Then again, it's even harder to figure out where these sports came from in the first place.
They originate in Scotland in the days when there were fighting clans or families against each other. And very often when chieftains had to negotiate, they would get their clansmen pursuing these different sports and different arts of war. These were preparation for arts of war, which developed into sports, and incidentally the earliest organised sports in the whole world.
But of course, Highland games aren't all warlike. The competition is also fierce on the dance floor. The kilts are flashing, the toes are pointing, the blood's pumping. It's all there.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's good. It's good fun.
Most of your friends know you do this sort of thing?
Most of them do. Yeah, most of them are in it as well. Yeah, and some of them are in the bands and whatnot, yeah.
The thing about these Highland games is not so much who wins or loses the competitions. Actually, really, it's more looking the part. And as you can see, I'm dressed in the traditional Highland Australian uniform, a kilt here, naturally in my own clan colours. This is a sporran. Inside is your wallet, which is necessary to buy a few nips of whisky later on in the day. And finally, a nasty little device down here called a skindoo. And you can stick these in the bagpipes if they start to annoy you. Yes, there's no shortage of bagpipes. Not the greatest cure for a New Year's Day hangover, but these pipers and drummers are locked in battle as well. Piping, like the Highland heptathlon, is all part of a Scottish tradition. And for Scots-born Queenslander Cole Matheson, that's what these games are all about.
I think it's an interesting sport. In Australia, we've more or less tried to keep alive a culture more than a sport. It is a sport. It was the origin of the Olympic hammer and Olympic shot. But as far as we're concerned in Australia, we try and keep alive the traditions of Scotland.
I like to keep them traditional. I like things kept traditional, and they're keeping them traditional. That's very good.
So it's obviously good from your point of view to see the young people getting involved.
Oh, yes. There's quite a few young lads in Scotland now starting coming in, and I can see things going for a lot more years without any change in the tradition of the thing.
Bill Anderson is the living legend of Highland sports. 18 times he was the All-Scotland champion. These days he really can't mix it with the young giants of this competition, but he's still in there trying.
You don't find any trouble with Highland games. There's never any, hostilities. And I think that's one of the best things. It's a family affair.
And I think that's the best thing about Highland Games, you know.
A fair bit of whiskey's consumed.
Well, I think maybe that, but it's always in, what do you say, good spirit, is it? You know, in good spirit.
Best spirit in the world, I reckon.
The new generation of Scottish champions is represented by Alistair Gunn. He calls himself a 15-stone lightweight who outgrew his soccer boots.
Soccer, I got too heavy for soccer, so couldn't run so fast, so and far, lost my fitness, so then the heavies, you know, it's less, but it's more like demanding, like strength-wise and explosion.
If you're not a Scot, all of this probably looks a bit daft. Certainly none of it looks easy. But after a while, watching all this happen in front of you, it's amazing just how much you can pick up. The Scottish stuff? Piece of cake, really.